Let's just jump right into it. Today's title is the new Grif, Denounce Candace, Tucker, and Nick Fuentes. I've been saying this, that what you are seeing from the right is the same thing that you saw with the left just a few years ago. And the reason why history always repeats itself is because people actually don't learn from history. What they do is they go through something and then they later reimagine what it was like instead of actually being honest and saying what was actually going on, which is why most people have tried to act like what happened in 2020 didn't happen. So, for example, back in 2020 and 2021, 2022, if you wore the mask, according to the left, you were a good person. If you got the shot, you were a good person. If you did not wear the mask, you did not get the shot, you were a very bad person and wanted to see people die. This is what the left was doing. They called this cancel culture. Remember, the left was all about not believing in free speech, wanting people to be silenced, deplatformed, demonetized, fired from their jobs, even killed in certain situations. That was the left. But now on the right, you're seeing the same thing. Just like many people believe that a person says Jesus, that makes them Christian, or if they criticize the left, that makes them conservative. And those could be far from the truth. But what you are seeing now is you're seeing the right turn to the left. This is the precursor to the uniparty that we are going to have in America. And so the reason why you see all of this cancel culture on the right and condemnation is simply from one thing, and that is support or non-support of Israel. That is undergirding all of this. This is all about supporting or not supporting Israel. So they started out saying, well, if you don't support Israel, then you're anti-Semitic. Then they say, you don't support Israel, you support Hamas. Now they're saying, if you condemn Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, or Nick Fuentes, then you automatically by default support Israel. But if you support Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and Nick Fuentes, then you are not only anti-Israel, you're not only anti-conservative, anti-American, but you're also anti-Semitic. And this is where we are. You are seeing the the right turn into the left.
Anti-Semitism exists on the right as well. Voices like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, Stu Peters are unacceptable and dangerous. And we at the Republican Jewish Coalition take this threat very seriously. We work independently and in partnership with allies like Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro to call it out and root it out. We must be vigilant, always. We do not ignore it, we confront it loudly and consistently. And one of the reasons that we are so fixated on combating the rise of the woke right in our party is a couple of reasons. Number one, first and foremost, we saw what was happening in the Democratic Party early on, and we sounded the alarms when the rise of Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and they started getting elected. And all of our friends on the left and in the Democratic Party would say, "Oh, you're just being, you're just trying to scare everybody. It's the fringe. They're not, they're irrelevant. They're not in power. They're whatever." Meanwhile, as they turned a blind eye to that, that quote-unquote fringe has now become the mainstream and taken over the Democratic Party to the point where the Democratic Party is no longer recognizable as the Democratic Party of my parents and my grandparents. But the bigger issue, and this is something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and I've been talking to Prime Minister Netanyahu and others about, is the threat from the woke right is existential. And by that I mean, if we don't combat the woke right now, and if it follows the trajectory of what happened in the Democratic Party and gets a foothold and ultimately becomes the mainstream of the Republican Party, there is no party and nobody in politics to support Israel. Israel will be alone. Without a strong pro-Israel Republican Party, there is no support for Israel. If we lose the...
So you see him painting a very grim picture. And what he's doing is he's saying that if you don't support, this is what he's essentially saying. If you don't support Israel, if we don't have support, then we are going to perish. That's what he's, so in other words, what he's saying is, if you don't support Israel, there will be a Holocaust. And my question for anybody saying this is, okay, well, if you are God's chosen people, then why would there be a Holocaust? Why would God allow a Holocaust to his chosen people? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And so I think that this kind of language is dangerous because it justifies censoring people. It justifies violating people's rights. It justifies all these things happening to Americans, and mostly I'm going to say American white people, because anytime they attack free speech, any attacks on our liberties and our freedoms is geared at white people, because nobody else really believes in freedom. So it's really only geared towards white people. But what he's saying, in my opinion, is dangerous, because the assumption is that what people are saying is wrong. The assumption is what they are saying about Israel, the government, is wrong, meaning it's all or nothing. Either you agree, or if you don't agree, then you're a threat to our existence. That is a problem. It is a problem with the language. And again, like I said, the new grift is condemning Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Nick Fuentes. It's the old boogeyman syndrome. You got to pick out a boogeyman and condemn them to show your allegiance. People are doing it because it's obvious when people get on social media and say all these talking points for Israel, that's become too obvious. Now they're getting slick. What they're doing is they're saying, okay, just attack these people and that'll send the same message. Just attack these people, that'll send the same message. Now listen, nobody's 100% right, but a person should be able to dislike Benjamin Netanyahu and like Candace Owens. Or a person should be able to not like Candace Owens and like Benjamin Netanyahu. Or a person should be able to, you know what? I don't like Benjamin Netanyahu and I don't like Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, and Candace Owens. But to take away those choices, in my opinion, is nothing different. It's no different than communism, because you're telling me that I have to think and I have to agree with a certain thing. And people are being pressured to condemn people they don't want to condemn. Because the question is, what is the condemnation? Are you saying that a person can't disagree with you? Like, why do you want somebody to condemn somebody? Because they have strong opinions? Let's continue.
Of course, anti-Semitism. I'll have more to say on this in the coming days, but today I want to be clear about one thing. Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. And of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned.
Now let's stop right there. Now, based on what he said in that first sentence, first couple of seconds, he's already being labeled anti-Semitic. Even though what he said is valid, he is already being labeled anti-Semitic. So if you support him, you're anti-Semitic. If you go against him, you're pro-Israel. That's how they're setting the landscape up. They're setting the landscape up really like a digital dictatorship, where they're going to condemn you if you disagree and leave you alone if you comply or agree or I don't know the word. I want to say condone, but yeah, I say condone.
Loyalty as a Christian and as an American is to Christ first and to America always. When it serves the interests of the United States to cooperate with Israel and other allies, we should do so, with partnerships on security, intelligence, and technology. But when it doesn't, conservatives should feel no obligation to reflexively support any foreign government, no matter how loud the pressure becomes from the globalist class or from their mouthpieces in Washington. The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians. And we won't start doing that now.
And that's the pressure. The pressure is come out and condemn these people. It's wrong. There's no way to go. And what's crazy is that you would think that conservatives and people on the right actually believed in freedom, but they don't. They never have. Because if you believe in freedom of speech in principle, then that means you have to be okay with people saying things that you don't like. But this whole cancel culture that was on the left exclusively has now gone to the right. And the undergirding of it and the foundation of it is simply support for Israel. And to me, that's a problem. It is a problem to condemn somebody because they don't agree with you. A person not agreeing with you is their decision. Okay, they disagree. I disagree. I'm gonna keep it moving. But to want people canceled and say what you're saying is dangerous, and it's too much. It's too much. And you ask them, where are y'all getting this stuff from? They're gonna say social media. When you ask people, where are y'all getting all of this from? They're going to say social media, as if social media isn't infested with bots. And I said this last video, when January 6th happened, because the people gathered, there were able to be all kinds of agents of chaos in the midst, just by the gathering. Because we have social media, now the playing field can be swayed by people that aren't even real people, just bots, people coming online saying anything just to get a reaction. And that's what my question is, who's determining who's a bot? When is it real? When is it a threat? When is it anti-Semitic? When is it not? Who's going to? Nobody. So it simply boils down to support this or else. That's what happens. And it's no different than what the left was doing. If you wear a mask, you're a good person. If you don't, you're a bad person. If you get the shot, you're a good person. If you don't, you're a bad person. This is the same concept. If you support Israel, you are a good person. If you don't support Israel, you are a bad person. It's the same thing.
We don't take direction from comments on X, though we are grateful for the robust free speech debate. We also don't take direction from members or donors, though we are inherently grateful for their support. And we're adding more every day. This is the robust debate we invite with our colleagues, our movement friends, our members, and the American public. We will always defend truth. We will always defend America, and we will always defend our friends against the slander of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda. That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation. The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right.
And the crazy part is that what has Tucker Carlson said that's anti-Semitic? Because he doesn't agree with Zionism? Like, think about it. What has Tucker Carlson said that's anti-Semitic? What has he said that is against Jewish people? Not the government, not the state, the actual people. What has he said against the people? And I might add you that Semitic doesn't just stop at people in Israel. It doesn't just stop at Jews. There's a whole lot of Semitic people in the world. Millions upon millions upon millions. In fact, there are more Semitic people that aren't considered Semitic than there are people called Semitic. That's what I say, Shemitic. But what has he actually said that's anti-Semitic? Or have you just been told he's anti-Semitic? What does he actually say out of his mouth is anti-Semitic? Okay.
I disagree with, and even abhor, things that Nick Fuentes says. But canceling him is not the answer either. When we disagree with a person's thoughts and opinions, we challenge those ideas in debate. And we have seen success in this approach as we continue to dismantle the vile ideas of the left. As my friend Vice President Vance said last night, what I am not okay with is any country coming before the interest of American citizens, and it is important for all of us, assuming we are American citizens, to put the interest of our own country first. That's where our allegiance lies, and that's where it will stay.
Now, nothing this man said was anti-Semitic, but everybody's calling him anti-Semitic because again, he said he disagrees with Nick Fuentes, but he doesn't want to cancel him. And people are upset. Like I said before, these folks been talking about freedom and free speech. They don't really believe in it. Because if they had the power to do it, they would silence a lot of voices. They don't believe in free speech. What they believe in is the person they like being able to talk.
Nick Fuentes, what happened here is, first of all, I think this is like ridiculous and kind of sloppy thinking at a certain point. Just to be clear again, there's no evidence that Tucker was trying to mainstream Nick Fuentes. What happened here is Nick Fuentes became mainstream. Like, that's just the reality. And anybody can look at this. Like, this is just looking at numbers. It's not like an opinion. He's about as big as anybody in this world right now, up there with them. And in terms of, no, you cannot deduce. Look, I had a socialist, Ben Burgess, on my podcast years ago, because he wrote this book, and it was called something like Canceling Comedians While the World Burns. And the book was about how there's all these left-wingers who were caught up in cancel culture at the time, canceling Louis C.K. and all these guys, when, look, we still don't have universal health care or universal, all this stuff. And I just interviewed him about the book because I thought it was a really interesting topic. And I didn't argue with him, but you can't deduce from that I believe in socialism. And in fact, what Tucker did on the show was make the point against Jew hatred and make the point against racial collectivism at all, and saying flat out that is just unchristian, and that Christians must judge people as individuals, and that it's not a cuck move to say it's not the Jews that you have to talk about specific. And the truth is, Nick didn't really give him pushback on that. Now, you could say,
and again, most people did not watch the Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes interview. What they did was they said Tucker Carlson is interviewing Nick Fuentes, then that makes him anti-Semitic. Because Nick Fuentes is anti-Semitic. Most folks didn't watch the interview. It's like 2.5 hours. They didn't watch it. They're just saying it. That person's anti-Semitic. And really, a lot of this stuff is very low intellectual commentary. It just is. It's just very lowbrow commentary. You like this person, then you're anti-Semitic. You like that person, and you like it's foolish. It's foolish. It's a bunch of immature people with too much power and too much time on their hands. It's foolish.
that is Nick trying to moderate his views or something like that, but I don't exactly know why that's a bad thing. I think I'd probably rather people say, yeah, it's not all the Jews. There are different specific people. But to the bigger point here, I think look, when you say, oh, there's these people with conspiracy theories, they're not connecting dots. Again, yes, that's true. It's also prevalent everywhere. Every single day, Mark Levin gets on Twitter and tweets Tucker Carlson. That's what he calls him every single day. What is that other than a ridiculous conspiracy? There's never been a shred of evidence. Laura Loomer, the most disingenuous person on the internet, once produced a document that said that a group in Qatar was trying to facilitate an interview with Tucker Carlson and a Qatari leader. There's no evidence that Tucker Carlson, the man in his 50s with tons of money, started going on the payroll of Qatar.
And I'm glad he said this. I'm glad he said that these quote unquote conspiracy theories exist on both sides. We went looking for weapons of mass destruction and didn't find one. Is that a conspiracy theory? To go looking for weapons of mass destruction that you are certain is there and you don't find any in 20 years. Was that a conspiracy theory? And I'm glad he said that there are conspiracy theories on the right and the left. So that means that conspiracy theories can't be the disqualifier if everybody's throwing them out. People have conspiracy theories about Candace Owens, about Tucker Carlson, and about Nick Fuentes. But if they have them, they're anti-Semitic. But if you have them, you're just being a good person.
Stuff is everywhere. And, I would just say that when you say, hey, there are certain views, like I find Alex Jones' view on Sandy Hook disgusting. I find Nick Fuentes' views on race disgusting or something like that. Okay, look, if I'm being completely honest, I find your views on Gaza disgusting. But whatever, man, let's still sit down and talk about it, because what else are we going to do? I mean, how many options do we really have here? We can fight, we can go to war, or we can try to argue this like civilized men and see who's more persuaded by our case. And for all you guys, say whatever you will about Nick Fuentes. You know, I've known him over the years. I don't know him super well, but I do know him. And full disclosure, I got to admit, I kind of like him. I disagree with him on a lot of things, and he disagrees with me on a lot of things. One thing I cannot say about him, he is willing to debate. So when you sit here, Seth, and you're like, Tucker should have handled him like this, Tucker should have screamed bigot at him the whole time, why don't you give that a shot? I bet he'd do it. Give it a shot. See.
And again, what he's saying is correct, because Nick Fuentes is welcome. He puts himself out there. I'll give him credit for that. Like, he goes on shows where it's just him by himself and 5 people. Like, he puts himself out there. I just think it's quite funny that everybody wants you to not. He's already been deplatformed and all of this other stuff. And then on top of that, you're saying people can't have like what are y'all really saying? Oh, you want him canceled? You want him silenced forever unless he says what you want him to say. I don't agree with that. I don't. And I've got the guy's name on here, but he just wanted Tucker Carlson to get him on the show and call him anti-Semitic and call him racist. That's what Candace Owens did. Y'all didn't embrace her. Candace Owens brought Nick Fuentes on her show, sabotaged him, set him up, just to call him racist and all this other stuff. Y'all didn't embrace her. You still hate Candace Owens. So again, this is the new grift. The new grift is you don't have to show allegiance to Israel outright. Just condemn folks who we want you to condemn. And now it's going to be added to that list, the guy from the Heritage Foundation. And I'm pretty sure people say that I'm being anti-Semitic. I'm pretty sure they are. But everything I've said throughout the years. I've never changed my stance on none of this stuff. I haven't. You can go back and check the videos. But the difference is nobody called it anti-Semitic when I was saying it back then. It was just my opinion. Now it's being called anti-Semitic. Now I would be condemned for my views. But let's continue.
I might not agree with everything you say. Shout out to the liberal hive mind. I might not agree with everything you say, but bruh, thank you for calling a spade a spade. We're going to leave out the expletives, but Tucker Carlson should be ostracized from public forums. Why, Officer Tatum? Why? This comes out.
I'm going to tell you what this says. Stop Anti-Semitism page on Twitter. Tucker Carlson will be the demise of the Republican Party. That's a big statement. This man must be ostracized from public forums, insider circles, and every place in between. Otherwise, the GOP will morph into a radical abyss like the Democrats have after failing to rein in AOC, Iliad Omar, and I don't know who else. Maybe he's probably going to be Corey Bush, maybe. I don't know. But you see how so you see what happens. You're being told if you don't silence this person, if you don't condemn this person, if you don't take everything from this person so they can't speak, then you're going to suffer the same fate as the left. You're going to be destroyed. Like you see what they're doing? They're trying to put what you know is right, which is somebody's right to speak, over somebody's feelings and opinions about something. It is an assumption that the Republican Party can be destroyed by Tucker Carlson. That is an assumption. There is no factual anything to prove anything of that. It's just an opinion. But they're trying to sway you with a prediction, with an opinion or a prediction. And then Brandon Tatum says he agrees with that 10,000%. I keep telling you all that most people that you see don't actually believe in freedom. What they believe in is someone that they like and agree with being able to talk. When people say free speech, they don't mean everybody. They mean the folks that they like. Liberal Hive Mind said, what the F, Officer Tatum? Tucker Carlson should be ostracized from public forums? Who the F do you think you are? And I agree. This is a horrible, horrible take. This is horrible to agree with. It's horrible.
after he agrees with the fact that the anti-Semitism page believes that Tucker will be the demise of the Republican Party and that this man must be ostracized from public forums, insider circles, and every place in between. This is you, Officer Tatum. Now you support censorship of somebody that doesn't go along to get along? Why do we have to be pro-Israel in order for us to be accepted by the Republicans and the right now? I just want to know. And why are we okay with censoring conservative voices because they don't support Israel? You let me know in the comment section below, and maybe one of these days I'll be great enough for him to respond to one of my videos, because I really want to understand why you would support Tucker being ostracized from public forums. That is literally cancel culture and censorship.
That was Sunni, the middle child, and I agree with her 1,000% or 10,000%. So what you're seeing now is the right justifying the same thing the left would justify. The left has the same reasons for wanting to cancel somebody as the right. What you are seeing is the creation of a uniparty in America. That's what you're seeing. And at the foundation of it, it's going to come from support or non-support of Israel. That's where it's going to come from. But this is the new grift. Condemn Tucker Carlson, condemn Candace Owens, condemn Nick Fuentes. You don't have to say you support Israel, just condemn folks that we don't like. That's basically what's being said.
This is y'all leader, right? That's him? Okay.
I took Turning Point USA and I fucked it. I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I fucked it. And I've been fucking it.
Now I'm going to ask this one more time because I really got to make sure I got the right guy. This is him. That's him, right? Okay.
Why are you hanging out with children?
Well, you know, they're hotter. Based. Let's go. That's why we love him. That's why we love this guy.
Now I promise y'all, this is the last time I'm going to ask this question. This is him, right? That's him.
Now, I want you to think about something real quick. Who said that they wanted Nick Fuentes to lead the conservative movement? Who said that? What credible person, when I mean credible, not some bot account on social media, what real human being, credible person said they want Nick Fuentes to run a conservative movement? Who said that? Who said it? You see, they throw out a narrative to make you believe it's real. It's not about truth anymore. It's not about facts. It's about just throwing out a narrative and you think it's real because somebody said it. People think it's real because this guy said it. People lie. Nobody said, who said they want Nick Fuentes to be the leader of the conservative movement? Who? The guy from the Heritage Foundation just said he should be able to speak. He shouldn't be canceled. But who is saying they want Nick Fuentes to lead the conservative movement? Come on, man. But again, this is the new grift. You don't have to say you support Israel. You just condemn people that Israel doesn't like.
Okay.
Hitler was a pedophile and kind of a pagan. It's like, well, he was also really fucking cool. So, you know, time to grow up.
And what's funny is you can take somebody's comment, and again, it's why I always talk about context. It's why I always talk about context. You can take somebody's comment and you can isolate it and spin it however you want to spin it. But at the end of the day, some of the worst people that we have known in humanity have been some of the most popular. Some of the worst people that we've known in humanity have been some of the most liked. That's a reality. That's a fact. You can find the worst person. There are guys that are serial killers that get married in prison and on death row. That's the way of the world. But to say that someone shouldn't be able to speak, that's something else. I don't have to agree with Nick Fuentes, with Candace Owens, or Tucker Carlson. But what I do agree with is them being able to speak. I don't believe in them being removed from platforms. I don't agree with it. Because when it happened to me, it wasn't done justly. It was quite done in an evil and wicked manner. Because these platforms were censoring me, taking my pages away and demonetizing me, not because I was lying, not because I was spreading hate. None of that. They did it because I was telling the truth. So anybody that wants to censor free speech, their ultimate goal is to censor the word of God, because that's where it ends up. Because the most offensive thing in the world is preaching the gospel. That is pretty much guaranteed to offend everybody, even folks that claim they love the gospel.
What I mean is I don't care about ethnicity. It doesn't make any difference to me. The only thing that makes a difference to me is the ideals of the people who are coming across the border. You can become an American if you buy into Central American ideals, but I'm not going to pretend that I care whether a bunch of people who are pro-America and pro-American ideals come from Cuba versus coming from Britain.
And by the way, I don't care what color you are. I know maybe that's going to be controversial on my side. But seriously, if you have citizenship, if you were born in this country, this is your birthright. This is our country. This is our empire. I'll unite with anybody who proclaims America first above all other countries, including and especially Israel.
Should he be canceled? Should he be demonetized? Should he be thrown in jail? Or should he just be ignored?